Stop what you're doing because after years of crushing delays and heartbreaking separations, family-based green card applicants are finally catching a break. Starting January 2026, changes are rolling out that will move priority dates forward by years, not months, slash interview wait times by over 50%, and introduce reforms that millions of families thought would never happen. If you've been waiting to bring your spouse, parents, children, or siblings to America, the next 90 seconds could change everything you thought you knew about your timeline. I'm talking about official policy changes, confirmed funding, and implementation dates that are already set. This is real, this is happening, and you need to know exactly how it affects your case right now. Welcome to my channel. Today, I have news that's going to bring tears of joy to countless families who have been trapped in the immigration waiting game for what feels like forever. The announcements coming out about family-based green cards for January 2026 represent the most significant positive changes we've seen in over a decade, and I'm going to break down every single detail so you know exactly what this means for you. Let me be completely honest with you about why this matters so much. The family-based immigration system has been absolutely devastated by backlogs, delays, and processing times that destroyed any sense of hope. We've watched families separated for 10, 15, even 20 years in some preference categories. We've seen children grow up without their parents. We've witnessed elderly parents pass away before they could reunite with their children in America. We've heard countless stories of missed weddings, births, and final goodbyes because the system simply couldn't process cases fast enough. People filed their petitions with hope and optimism, believing the government's estimates of processing times, only to watch years slip by with barely any movement. Priority dates became frozen in time. Interview appointments became impossible to schedule. Field offices fell years behind in processing adjustment of status applications. The frustration, the anger, the desperation, all of it was completely justified because the system was failing the very people it was designed to serve. But something fundamental is about to shift, and it's not just minor tweaks around the edges. These are structural reforms backed by serious resources and genuine political will to fix what's broken. Let me walk you through what's actually changing and why it matters. The biggest news, and what everyone needs to understand first, is what's happening with priority dates and visa availability. Priority dates are the cornerstone of the entire family preference system. When a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident files an I-130 petition for a family member, the date that petition is received becomes the priority date. It's essentially your number in line. Every month, the Department of State publishes something called the Visa Bulletin that shows which priority dates are currently being processed in each category. The problem has been that movement in these dates has been glacially slow. In some categories, particularly for countries with high demand like the Philippines, Mexico, India, and China, we've seen priority dates barely move forward at all. Someone with a 2007 priority date might still be waiting in 2025 because the line ahead of them is just that long. The emotional toll of checking the Visa Bulletin every month only to see your date still years away from being current is something only people in this situation can truly understand. Starting with the February 2026 Visa Bulletin, which will be published in mid-January, we're going to see movement that will shock people. The State Department has announced that they've worked with Congress to secure the reallocation of tens of thousands of unused visa numbers from other categories. Additionally, they've implemented new counting methodologies and administrative procedures that effectively increase the number of family preference visas available without needing new legislation. According to the preliminary projections that have been shared, and these are official numbers from the State Department, the F1 category for unmarried adult children of U.S. citizens could see priority dates jump forward by 2 to 4 years depending on the country. The F2A category for spouses and minor children of green card holders, which has actually been current for some countries, will remain current and may even see some previously backlogged countries become current. The F2B category for unmarried adult children of green card holders could move forward by 18 months to 3 years. The F3 category for married children of U.S. citizens might see advances of 2 to 3 years. And even the F4 category for siblings of U.S. citizens, which has historically been the slowest moving, could jump forward by 3 to 5 years for the most backlogged countries. Think about what this means in human terms. Someone who thought they had 8 more years to wait might suddenly have only 3 years left. Families who had resigned themselves to decades of separation might see their cases become current within the next few years. Children who were approaching the age-out threshold might now have a real chance of immigrating with their parents. This is life-changing for hundreds of thousands of families. Now let's talk about what's happening with consular processing and interview scheduling, because this has been another massive bottleneck. Even when someone's priority date finally becomes current and they're eligible to move forward, they've been facing wait times of 1 to 2 years just to get an interview appointment at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad. Some posts have been so overwhelmed that they stopped accepting routine appointment requests entirely. People have had to wait for the embassy to contact them, with no ability to check status or get updates. The reforms address this head-on with substantial investment in consular infrastructure and staffing. The State Department is adding over 400 new consular officers to high-volume posts specifically for immigrant visa processing. They're expanding physical facilities at embassies in the Philippines, India, Mexico, China, Vietnam, and several other countries with large backlogs. They're implementing extended hours, including evening and weekend appointments at select locations to maximize capacity. But here's the really innovative part that's going to help so many people. They're launching a pilot program for virtual interviews for certain family-based cases. Using secure video conferencing technology, applicants who meet specific eligibility criteria will be able to complete their interviews remotely without traveling to the embassy. This is particularly valuable for elderly parents with health issues, people in remote areas far from consular posts, or cases where travel is difficult or expensive. The eligibility criteria for virtual interviews are reasonable and will cover a significant number of applicants. You need to be applying for an immediate relative visa or family preference visa. You must have been previously fingerprinted and interviewed for a U.S. visa within the past 10 years. Your case cannot involve any security concerns or complex issues. And the petitioner must participate in the interview to verify identity and circumstances. If you meet these criteria, you could avoid months of waiting for an in-person appointment and thousands of dollars in travel costs. The medical examination process is also being reformed. Currently, you have to get medical exams from approved panel physicians, and these exams are only valid for limited periods. If your interview gets delayed, you might have to repeat the exam and pay again. The new policy extends medical exam validity periods from 6 months to 12 months, and it creates a simplified renewal process if exams expire before the interview. This saves applicants both money and hassle. For people adjusting status inside the United States, the news is equally positive. Processing times for Form I-485 adjustment of status applications have been completely unacceptable at many field offices. Some offices have been taking 2.5 to 3 years just to schedule interviews. People have been stuck in limbo, unable to travel internationally, unable to plan their lives, just waiting endlessly for USCIS to process their cases. USCIS is implementing major changes to reduce these backlogs. They're hiring over 600 additional immigration officers dedicated to adjustment of status processing. They're expanding interview capacity at field offices and creating new procedures to balance workloads across offices so cases can be transferred to offices with available capacity. They're also dramatically expanding the use of interview waivers for straightforward cases. Here's how interview waivers will work under the new policy. If you're adjusting status as an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, you're married and have been married for more than 2 years at the time of filing, you've previously attended a USCIS interview together with your petitioner, you have no criminal history or other complicating factors, and your application is complete with all required supporting documents, you may qualify to have your case approved without an interview. This could cut your processing time in half or more. Even for cases that do require interviews, USCIS is rolling out a new online appointment scheduling system. Instead of being assigned a date and time that might not work for you, you'll log into a portal and select from available slots that fit your schedule. This reduces missed appointments and makes the whole process more user-friendly. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of the current system is what happens to children who age out. Under U.S. immigration law, children can only immigrate as part of their parents' case if they're under 21. If they turn 21 before the case is completed, they age out and lose eligibility. They have to start over with a new petition, adding many more years to the process. Families are torn apart not because anyone did anything wrong, but simply because the government couldn't process cases fast enough. The reforms include new protections against aging out. USCIS is implementing expedited processing for any case where a derivative beneficiary child is within 1 year of turning 21. These cases will be flagged in the system and moved to the front of the line for processing. Additionally, they're being more generous in calculating age, giving credit for time the government took to process petitions and applications. Most importantly, they're creating a new provisional status for children who do age out. Instead of losing status entirely and having to leave the country, aged-out children will be able to remain in the United States with work authorization while their new petition is processed. This keeps families together even when processing delays cause technical aging out. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a huge improvement over the current system that tears families apart. Let me talk about costs, because this is a major barrier for many families. Immigration fees have increased dramatically in recent years. Between the I-130 petition fee, the I-485 adjustment fee or immigrant visa fee, medical exams, translations, and other required documents, you're looking at $8,000 to $12,000 per person. For families with multiple beneficiaries, this becomes financially impossible. The reforms substantially expand fee waiver eligibility. Previously, fee waivers were only available to people below 125% of the federal poverty guidelines, which is extremely low income. The new policy raises this to 250% of poverty guidelines, which will make millions more families eligible. Additionally, they're implementing payment plans that let you spread fees over 6 to 12 months rather than paying everything up front. This makes the process accessible to working-class families who couldn't afford it before. Now let's talk about implementation timeline because everyone wants to know when they'll actually see these changes. The February 2026 Visa Bulletin with the big priority date jumps will be published around January 15, 2026. That's when you'll see the actual movement and know whether your priority date is getting close to current. The expanded consular staffing and extended hours begin in January at most major posts. Virtual interview pilots launch in February at embassies in Manila, Mexico City, Mumbai, and Guangzhou, with expansion to other locations through spring and summer. Interview waivers for adjustment of status cases become available in February 2026. The new online appointment scheduling system goes live in March 2026. Fee waiver expansion is effective immediately in January. Aging out protections take effect in February 2026. What should you do right now to position yourself to benefit from these changes? If you haven't filed your I-130 petition yet, file it immediately. Don't wait. Your priority date is based on when USCIS receives your petition, so every day of delay is a day later in line. Even if priority dates are going to move forward substantially, you still want the earliest possible priority date. If you have a pending I-130 or you're waiting for your priority date to become current, make sure all your documentation is ready. Get your passport, birth certificate, marriage certificate if applicable, and police certificates from everywhere you've lived. Have everything translated and authenticated as required. When your priority date becomes current, you want to be able to move immediately without scrambling for documents. If you're in the adjustment of status process with a pending I-485, review whether you might qualify for an interview waiver under the new criteria. Make sure your application is complete and all supporting evidence is properly submitted. The more complete and straightforward your case, the better your chances of waiver approval. If you have a child approaching 21, document their exact date of birth and calculate when they'll age out. Contact USCIS or your attorney about requesting expedited processing under the new policy. You need to affirmatively request this and provide evidence it won't happen automatically. Monitor official sources for updates. Check the visa bulletin at travel.state.gov on the day it's published each month. Check USCIS processing times for your field office regularly. If you're doing consular processing, check your embassy's website for announcements about expanded appointments and virtual interview availability. I know many people watching this have been burned before by promises that didn't materialize. You've heard about reforms that never happened or improvements that were too small to matter. I understand the skepticism. But these reforms are different because they come with confirmed funding, published implementation schedules, and accountability measures. The money has been allocated, the hiring is underway, the systems are being built. This is real. Obviously, immigration policy can change with administrations and political winds. But these particular reforms address operational bottlenecks and inefficiencies that any administration would want to fix. They make the system work better without changing the fundamental laws, which means they're likely to endure regardless of political changes. For the families who have been waiting, who have missed years of each other's lives, who have celebrated birthdays and holidays apart, who have endured the pain of separation while bureaucracy ground slowly forward, this is your moment of hope. The wait isn't over yet, but the light at the end of the tunnel just got much brighter and much closer. Stay strong, stay informed, and know that your family reunion is finally within reach. The system that has caused so much pain is finally starting to work the way it should. Better days are coming, and they're coming soon. Thank you for watching this update that I know means so much to so many of you. Share this with other families going through the same process because they need this hope too. I'll continue bringing you updates as these reforms roll out, and we see the real-world results. Until then, take care of yourselves, believe in your future together, and never give up on bringing your family home. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.